Good morning, gorgeous. It is a beautiful day here in sunny California. My family is currently going through a crazy snowstorm, so I'm very thankful not to be in that. And I figured it was time for another little experiment. So on social media, I put up a question basically saying, hey, I want to know a genre, pick any genre. And I didn't tell what it was for. So I'm going to be running a mile and a half every day this week. I'm going to prep the exact same way, so I'll do my warm-up just like normal. I'll have my 1 cup of coffee as my pre-workout, and I'm going to run a mile and a half every day. But every day I'm going to be listening to a Spotify procured playlist based on the genre you chose. So today is day number 1, and I got a couple of different people basically saying the same genre, which was jazz or bluesy jazz. And so that's how we're going to get started. I'm really interested to see how it impacts how quickly I go. I'm not going to push myself for a certain genre. I'm just going to kind of take it easy, listen to music, let it guide me, and we'll see. So without further ado, I guess I should probably get started. All right, and what seems like moments later, I'm back. I ran my 1.52 miles, and something I noticed with this music is that there was no lyrics, and some of the songs went on really long. And a rule that I kind of made for myself is I have to listen to at least half the song before I skip. But that first song was literally almost the first mile completely. Now, overall, my average pace was 9 minutes and 37 seconds. It is not fast by any means. It wasn't the slowest I've ever run. During my marathon, I was averaging like 10:05, just because of how long of a distance I was going. But as for, general, very short run pace, 9:37 is not something I'd ever brag about. Not a music genre I would normally go to run, but it was a good day 1. So with that, day 2. Day 2, look how magically that happened. Hi. I just got done with day 2, which was a little bit windier and a little bit hotter because I ended up going at lunch, but I still prepped the same way. I still did the same warm-up as I did before. My music this time was actually alt pop. The suggestion was given to me to do Dua Lipa, which I actually listen to during my normal runs, but as that's not like a genre, I just picked the genre that best applied, which was alt pop. I will say though that the alt pop playlist that Spotify made was a little more alt mellow pop than normal upbeat alt pop that you would hear. They did have some Glass Animals in there, which I recognized, but other than that, it was very kind of odd, kind of hard to get a beat to, but it was way easier to run to than bluesy jazz, especially with bluesy jazz having no lyrics. But yeah, so overall my run went well. Like I said, it's kind of windy, so I'm sure that had somewhat of an effect. My average pace was 9:13, which was significantly faster. So there you have it. That's day 2. I will say I definitely found today slightly more enjoyable. It's still not my go-to music, but it definitely was much easier to run to, much more enjoyable. Didn't feel like I was lulling or dragging. When I ran my marathon, music was such a huge factor for me because if I got bored because I knew it too well or I didn't know it well enough, I didn't feel invested. I couldn't connect to the beat as well, and I'm a very musical person, so it was a huge factor in getting me to go along. When I have a good song that I really, really like, that I can connect my footwork to, that's just the right pace or drives me just a little bit quicker, I find huge success in speed work. So I definitely find music to be important. This is not at all sponsored, by the way, but I love Spotify's Discover Weekly. Sometimes it's a huge miss. I don't like any songs on there, but I do like to listen to it while I'm working out, find some of my favorites. That way when I go on a longer run or I go on a run where I want to just listen to what I've been listening to, or even when I'm doing aerial, I have a couple of those favorites that I've liked, and that really helps me. It keeps me both active in finding new music that I like, as well as keeping me motivated as my workouts go along. So this is a really great experiment for me. So yeah, that's day 2 for you. On to day 3. Good morning, gorgeous. Today is day 3. I'm about to go on my run. I apologize for my rosacea covered face. Today we're going to be doing a music run that I'm super excited about. Ironically, it's emo. It's along the lines more of what I listen to normally. It was a suggestion that I actually got from a friend of mine back in Lubbock. So I guess we're going to see how this stacks up to everything else. Let's get going. And I'm back. So, to give you an update, same route. My average pace was 8:52. The first one out of the gate really had me pushing, and you kind of jinx yourself sometimes if you look at your watch. So, of course I did. Because I was like, ooh, I like this song. And I looked, and I was running a 7:52 mile. And that first little jaunt is up a hill, and it's kind of a steady up a hill for about 3 or 4 blocks, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it really gets your heart rate up and it's hard to keep pace. And of course I looked at my watch, so I kind of psyched myself out, so I'm sure I slowed down at that. And then the next few songs, like there was a Jimmy Eat World song, and the last little bit was Panic at the Disco, and of course that really has you strike your foot, and that's always really great. It's a great little pusher, even though it's not necessarily the fastest beat in the world. And so that was great. Overall, I think I could have run a little bit quicker if I had my pick of emo songs, but it was significantly faster even still than the others. I skipped less songs. I think I skipped 2 after I reached the halfway point of the songs, but the rest I listened to all the way through. So anyway, that is day 3 for you, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Good morning. It is day 4 out of day 5. This is going to be an interesting one for me because I have never even heard of this as a type of music, but Spotify has a playlist, and that is shoegaze music. And so downloaded my playlist and I'm ready to get going. Ready? Let's go. And with that, day 4 is done. This musical genre reminded me a lot of post-rock, so I was kind of into it. It's, the lyrics you can't really understand, and the music itself is pretty slow and steady. Like, it's a little beyond what you would hear at a spa. Definitely has some like chord progressions and things you could follow along with, but because it doesn't ever get amped up, you never feel like you have to push it up, but it's a nice grind. Like, it would be something that I would definitely want to listen to during like marathon training when I started to lull, because then I knew that I didn't have to push myself, but I could at least keep with the beat and keep a relatively up-tempo pace. So it's a good pacing genre. Now with that, as y'all are probably curious, I ran my 1.53, my watch got it right this time, in 13:55, which equates to a 9:07 pace. So it's still not as good as the alt pop, but it does push itself up into second place out of our 4 days that we've had so far. So I'm curious of what our last day will end up looking like. I might have saved the best for last. I guess we will find out tomorrow. It's definitely probably the most lively and pushing of the musical genres, so we'll see how it goes. Good morning. It is day 5, and I definitely think that I've saved the best for last. I have the most hopes for this one. My friend, both from work and on social media, gave me a recommendation for thrash metal. So hopefully this should be a little bit more fun and a little more upbeat. I personally like metal and alternative when I'm running, so we'll see how this goes. And with that, day 5 is done. I am not at all surprised that today was my fastest pace. Thrash metal ended up being about 8:41 as an average pace. My first mile was actually 8:29, which is great, considering that there's a hill right at the start. Some of the outcomes were an overall surprise, some were not. I wasn't surprised that thrash metal took number one. I wasn't surprised that the bluesy jazz came in last. But all of the ones in the middle did kind of surprise me with how they ended up and how close they were to each other. Now, something I do want to say, because I don't want to get hate for it, I didn't pick the recommendations. Those were on my Instagram, so if you're not following me, please do. But furthermore, I didn't pick the playlist. I literally typed in the genre into Spotify and the closest I could get to it, so whether that be the actual name, so alt pop was an actual name for a Spotify generated playlist. If there was, but for thrash metal, they didn't have one that was just thrash metal. They had a thrash metal essentials, which was the closest I could get, so I went with that one. None of these were person generated, they were all Spotify generated, and I went with the closest that I could possibly get, and I didn't skip any songs. I let them play to at least half before I could skip through, which is probably why my jazz one was so slow, because that first song was like 9 minutes. So I had to listen to like 5 minutes, which is about a third of the run. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I thought this was kind of a fun challenge and would be interested to see how that would transfer over into, say, other genres, or even having different songs picked for the same sequence in Aerial, and like how you would adjust that. It's more for just personal interest, really, but this was kind of a neat experiment. Again, not totally surprised at the overall winner, but also was kind of surprised at some of the other things, which I would definitely try to incorporate into longer playlists for the future. So thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. And until next week.